how do I introduce myself? Like, what makes more sense is if you want to film me just coding, you start with that, right? And just a close-up of the code or like side profile of me, and people can already see, software engineer, right? After that, you put like a cut of me like, and this is how I filmed with this, right? And people are like, what did he film, right? Mm-hmm. And then you start easing into like, why did you start the YouTube channel and like, what do you do at work? Let them figure it out for themselves rather than like serve it up on a plate and be like, this is what we're gonna do, this is the person we're interviewing, right? What do you think about that? I have my little script here. Mark this one for recording. Place it like to the side. And then I go like, hey everyone, I'm thinking about bringing back the more frequent vlogs, partially because I have no more vacation days left this year, and also in the summer they are very easy and enjoyable to make.
In today's episode, I'll show you the more advanced version of the backend architecture that I've been working on for my analytics project, and then I'll kindly ask you to help me choose the technology to implement and deploy it.
But anyway, before I can show you the architecture of my project,
technically it's still working hours, and I have to do some more work for my day job.
Which is surprisingly fun these days. Of course, any possible fun you can have from a day job is offset entirely by spending 5 minutes in Jira, but that's another story. So then that's that section, and then I trim it down and stuff like that. I didn't really want to be a programmer from the start. I was pretty sure I was going to study physics, and when it came time to actually choose, I got to meet a lot of the physics students and a lot of the math students. The thing that I noticed for all of them, they were very broke and most of them were unemployed. And so I was like, okay, is there something else that I can do that is kind of in the same area, but maybe easier to find a job? And that's when I started like looking into programming and maybe electronics. But it was never the first thing for me. Although I was like coding as a hobby, I had all these like tiny little experiments and projects and different apps. But the thing is, in my environment, my inner circle, that nobody was really interested in that. So I never really considered that to be like a career path. There was this time when the Social Network movie came out. And so naturally I wanted to build my own startup. But because I had no context of the outside world, I decided to build like a study tool. And it was like this math typesetting tool. It still works. I called it the Mathist. Basically, it had like a new way of inputting math with like an autocomplete feature similar to what you get in coding. And I was convinced this was going to be the next big thing and I'm going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. But the truth is, like, you know, students are broke and they don't want to pay for anything. And so I couldn't sell a single license of this startup. So we just at some point I gave up on that. But I kept coding, and I think just because I was dabbling so much with that project, it was very hard to do. Eventually I learned the stuff that they would teach you in university even before we actually had it in class. I found out that that's the only way I can learn. Like, some people can actually learn from a book. I'm not that person. And believe me, once you spend like 2 years working and you look at your end balance and it's like 0, you're never gonna make those mistakes again. Whereas, I mean, if you listen to a podcast and they tell you, oh yeah, you should always look at the bottom line of the company and whatnot, like, yeah, you're gonna acknowledge that information, but whether or not you're gonna apply it, that's a whole different thing. And so even if it takes me forever to try some skill from scratch, I still choose to do it because there's no way I would be able to learn it otherwise. Back when the pandemic was in full swing, as so many people, I stayed at home and days just became weeks and weeks became months. And then all of a sudden you look at the calendar and it's like 2 years have passed. And that's when I really started to think about me taking more intentional approach towards organizing my life, such that every year I can look at one thing that I did that I never did before. Then I was looking at all these things related to programming, but it wasn't really challenging. Once you have this basic understanding, learning another one of those is not like a new thing. It felt like it didn't really count. So I was like, is there something that I fundamentally believe I would never be able to do? I was like, yeah, for sure. Being one of those like YouTubers is definitely that, because I was very shy. I never wanted to be in front of the camera. So I was like, oh, that's not for me. Like, that's for other people to do. And then I was like, fundamentally, I might feel that way, but there is no evidence that I can't. I started like researching it and like trying to figure out all these little technicalities. And I was like, okay, yeah, there are things that you can learn. This is not just like complete improvisation. Like, there's a system you can make, there is rules that you can build for yourself to make it easier. And that's when I really started to look at YouTube almost like an engineering problem. So I was like, okay, I have to learn the skill set. And so I started a whole bunch of channels that are like aimed towards learning one part of that skill set. And I deleted a lot of them because they were like just hilarious and nobody really watched them. This one I didn't delete yet because I feel like there are some people who watch it like regularly, which is called Cozy Productive. And it's like this like study with me. Check out the graphics here with the clock. Actually, this was like made in Unity, and then it was made on a black background because that's the only way I knew how to make like any motion graphic. You know, it's kind of funny, but you have to start somewhere. Then I was thinking, okay, yeah, study with me, that's great. Some people with like exceptional balconies will always dominate this space. But what can I do to sort of, you know, differentiate myself? That's when I discovered the day in the life videos.
Day in the life of a software engineer.
Of being a software engineer.
After setup is over, I go work.
Just had my last meeting of the day.
Thank you for watching.
And subscribe for more, and bye!
I always wanted to do it, was always shy. So one day I was like, okay, never mind, I'm gonna try to do it, and if it succeeds, succeeds, if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I got this like little tripod, right? And it has like 3 legs. Most people like put it on a table or whatever. But the way I was looking at it is like, okay, can I somehow mount this to my own body, right? So I took like these 2 legs and I put them around my neck like so. And this one is broken now because of abuse. But initially this was my setup. So it will film this way and I could monitor exactly what I was filming. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna film my day going to the office, doing my work as real as I can possibly make it. And you know, that video did like almost 2 million views. I think I posted it in April. I was at 100 subscribers and I was like, if I can get to 1,000 subscribers by end of April, that would be amazing. And I had like 4,000 subscribers by end of April. And then I was like, if I can get to 10,000 subscribers by end of summer, that would be amazing. And then I had like 40,000. And I was like, if I can get to 80,000 by end of year, that would be amazing. And then end of year, I was like 120. I was like, what is going on here, right?
Are you gonna respect me more as a developer just because I have on the keyboard?
So that's kind of the story with how I started you know, the videos and why I started them, and I hope you like the story. All right.
I can confirm that that is actively used and has been used for a long time.
Yes, true. This is Michal's sitting ball. but it's actually quite good. Let me try. So you actually, because it forces you to like sit a little bit like this rather than like this, right?
Yeah.
And like all you need to do is like lower the table a little bit. At this point, I don't really feel like I made it. I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it because I remember how hard it was in the beginning. What keeps me going is when I go back to the comments and some people say like, oh my god, I started university and it's because I watched a few of your videos and some other videos that are similar. That really feels like it wasn't all just on a whim that I did it just to prove something to myself. It's actually more than that. It's helping somebody, at least maybe one person here and one person there, make a decision that might help them in the future. Like how to get started as a developer, that's a lot of people have that curiosity about that.
That is one of the most popular comments on yours.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is maybe interesting.
Once you get good at something, it becomes interesting and fulfilling in itself. Like a lot of people ask me like, oh, why do you spend so much time like editing videos? Why don't you go and like have beers with friends or whatever? But once you get into the nitty-gritty details and you discover all the little tricks and the way you can make people laugh and things like that, it gives you this motivation to try harder because you now know how to do it. Can I get a single shot latte? Same thing with coding, like that wasn't my dream. This is not something that I wanted to do from the start. I wanted to do physics. But once you start learning the basics and you see that you can type some things and some things come on the screen, and then from there you make applications and things you never thought you would be able to make, it gives you the motivation to try and see what else you can do. And then you're like, wow, there's this whole new world of like potential, opportunity and like collaboration. That is the thing that drives me right now. It's like that communication and working with people to figure out things that I thought that I wouldn't be able to figure out myself. One of the things that really fascinated me about the community is just how much people have energy to work on projects. For example, I was always the one working on 1,000 little things that maybe I will post about them, maybe not. But then next thing I know is like people build their own like community project channel on Discord without even me talking about it. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this and we're gonna split into groups, create all these rules and how everybody's gonna be able to contribute on GitHub. And I learned that just me showing up day after day and like working on these projects and continuing on the videos is motivation enough for somebody else to keep working on their stuff. So this is what I really want to do in the future. I want to share more. I want to create an opportunity for people to learn and to collaborate with each other. And this is kind of like my goal for the channel. Cool. Nailed it.
Thousands of developers find jobs across Europe using Honeypot. If you're up for a new challenge in one of these European cities, sign up at honeypot.io. If you want to see more tech documentaries, then subscribe so you don't miss the next one.